Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Sideline podcast, a podcast where we talk about the latest sports stories and sports news going on in the sports world today. And we give our opinions as fans watching from beyond the sideline. You are listening to us on either YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast almost every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific. I say almost every Friday because we did miss last week. I had a friend visiting from out of town, so just wanted to spend some time with him. We have finals coming up next week, so next week's episode is kind of up in the air. But we're here today, episode 14. So that's exciting. That's cool. But today we're going to be talking about a lot of NBA and a little bit about the MLB. Oh, actually, let's start with this. There was something I just saw earlier today. We
Okay.
might talk about it later on Gaucho Sports Spot on KCSB FM.
I know what you're
Um,
saying.
Utah Valley is coming to the Big West in 2026. They are going to be joining Cal Baptist as another team joining the Big West, as UC Davis and Hawaii are both leaving that year as well for the Mountain West. So Big West is shaping up for realignment. The first Big West team outside of California, so that's going to be
True.
exciting. Jake, what are your first thoughts on the news about Utah Valley?
Yeah, I'm glad that the Big West got back to 11 teams. You needed that. It'll be an even two for two swap now that you have Cal Baptist and Utah Valley. Both of them come in from the Western Athletic Conference, the WAC. I think it's a lateral move, slightly worse. I think UC Davis and Hawaii are better athletic programs than Utah Valley and Cal Baptist. So it still doesn't necessarily get me excited about the future of the Big West. That said, I think it probably could have been worse. Utah Valley actually won the regular season in the WAC this year. They were 15-1. They made it to the finals. They just lost to Grand Canyon, but they would have been, just in terms of their net rating, they would have been, I think, the second or third best team in the Big West this year, men's basketball wise. So I think that's a good thing. I think you're getting at least one of, if not the best, WAC program. Cal Baptist more of kind of a middle ground in that WAC, but I think this is just gonna kind of be the beginning. I still think we're gonna see a lot more moves. Now we have, we know the 11 teams that will be there for 2026 and beyond, but I could still see a lot of moving and shaking.
No, yeah, and like you said, we're getting kind of middle of the road teams. Not to discredit Utah Valley or Cal Baptist, they're good in the WAC, but in the Big West, yeah, you're losing UC Davis and Hawaii, who were pretty decent this year and for the last few years. Now
Yeah.
you're getting Utah Valley and Cal Baptist, who are a step down, but that leaves room for the Gauchos to do something special. Now that it's a little bit of an easier conference, you still have teams like UC Irvine, CSUN, UC San Diego. I know there's been a lot of shakeup, a lot of transfers going on, a lot of people graduating, but I think the biggest thing, honestly, is now having to travel to Utah. That's
Yeah.
that's going to be the big thing because before you only had maybe a 1.5, 2 hour plane trip to wherever you were going.
I guess you're effectively swapping out Hawaii for Utah, right?
So
You
yeah,
10 California teams in Utah instead of 10 California teams in Hawaii. It's kind of silly.
yeah. I mean, the Hawaii was one thing because Hawaii is Hawaii. You
Yeah.
can go to the beach and stuff. It makes up for the long plane trip, but now you got Utah, and we're gonna be playing during the winter quarter. It's gonna be snowing. I
That'll be
mean,
very, very different.
yeah.
I wonder the elevation difference
Oh
over there.
yeah.
Like especially for baseball stuff when you're playing outside, that could actually be like a serious impact because obviously everyone in California is playing at effectively zero
At sea
elevation.
level, yeah.
Utah could be like that. That could be a real difference. So that's actually something to watch out for.
Yeah, Utah might actually have home field advantage for a lot of these sports. Do they have a football team? I don't know.
That is a good question. I don't think they do. I was just looking that up right now.
Okay, because I
Um,
know UC Santa Barbara is trying to get a football team back. So if Utah Valley had one, the altitude difference could also be in effect. But if they don't have a football team, then we don't really got to worry.
yeah, no football team. No football team. So
Okay.
now that two teams with a football team, Hawaii and Davis, are gone. I mean, is there any football? Are there any football teams left in the Big West? Even non-Big West affiliated, just schools? I don't think so anymore.
Um, yeah, I don't think any of these schools have
I mean,
football.
clearly, I think it's clearly holding these teams back. I
Oh
think
yeah.
the reason why the Gauchos aren't in the Mountain West right now is because they don't have a football team. Even though, Davis's football team is just an FCS team and they're years away from being a Mountain West football team, they at least have that program.
Yeah.
So the Mountain West can say, all right, we'll build them up a little bit and then we'll add another football team with them. Gauchos, they're going to have to get to that point, I think, if they want to move up in conferences.
No, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in terms of basketball, uh, baseball, soccer, like the big three sports, we can easily compete in the Big West or the
Mm,
Big West, Mountain West, the Mountain West. It may be a bit difficult. We might be a below average to an average team in the Mountain West, but I think we can compete. But yeah, like you said, the fact that we don't have a football team what's stopping us from going there. And football brings in the most money, like statistically,
oh,
for
absolutely.
these colleges.
Yeah, I think it really is holding us back, and I think I like that. We're trying to start something going. It's been approved in the Senate meetings, but obviously it's a long ways away. It's probably at least a few years out from being a serious possibility. But I do think, yeah, I mean, it would open up so much for the school, especially just because we have a lot of recruiting advantages already, just where we're located. There's not really a major college anywhere near us. The closest is LA. So we're able to recruit very well for these other sports. That's why we are a really competitive Big West program in all these other sports. You open up football too. We're right near the beach. We're not near another major school. Could be a huge advantage. So I think, hopefully one day down the road, episode 1000 of this podcast, we're talking some Gaucho football.
That would be awesome. And I mean, I wish it would have happened a bit sooner, because then we could have experienced the student section,
Mm.
Saturday Night Lights. But it's gonna happen when we're alumni, which is still gonna be cool. We get to root for our alumni's football team. But man, I mean, with the big frat scene, the big Greek life scene here at UC Santa Barbara, the student section is going to be crazy at a
Yeah.
UC Santa Barbara football game.
Yeah, you get glimpses of it in big basketball games and big baseball games, but there'd be nothing like it if it was football.
Yeah, you get it too at volleyball games. When I went to the men's volleyball games, there was some frat guys there, and they were chirping.
That's awesome. That's
They
awesome.
they were chirping. But let's move on. We're gonna be talking about that, I'm assuming, later on air on FM radio. But let's move over now to national sports. Let's talk a little bit about the NBA. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals leading up to the finals. Knicks lost to the Pacers in six. I was able to watch Game 4 and 5, well, the second half of Game 5. And just from those two games alone, and those were the only games I really got to watch, the Pacers were just the better team overall. I mean, sure, the Knicks went out and won Game 5, but I mean, this Pacers team, I don't know if you can say that, you give credit to them. Like, did the Pacers win or did the Knicks lose? I know that's such a stupid question that no one likes, but I mean, it's true. I mean, are you going to give credit to the Pacers, or did the Knicks just not have a good series?
I it's hard because a lot of me is saying I feel like the biggest takeaway that I had from watching this series was that even though the Knicks I think had more talent, their lack of presence on defense throughout 99% of this series is why they lost. And is that just a personnel thing, so then you have to kind of blame the Knicks for that? Or is it a credit to the Pacers and Rick Carlisle for taking advantage of the weak they exposed this Knicks defense time and time again.
Yeah.
It felt like every other possession, someone was blowing by either Cat or Brunson and getting just an incredibly easy bucket. And that was my biggest takeaway from the whole series. It was just the Knicks gave way too many easy buckets away to the Pacers, just again and again and again. And they needed these Herculean efforts from, they needed some guys to step up on the bench and play really good defense. They needed, Cat to go off. Even when Brunson did go off for 30 plus points, like it just wasn't enough because of the defense. And really frustrating series to watch because, again, I think you do have the more talented team. It's just the makeup of it. And I think they really did get out coached because, again, mentioning all those easy looks that the Pacers got, a lot of that is coaching and drawing up, off-ball movement. They did that really well, cutting, and obviously give credit to Halliburton, one of the best passers in the league. I mean, he really showcased that throughout this entire series. So, I think a little bit of both. Back to your question, I think I blame the Knicks' poor defense, but got to give credit to the Pacers for taking advantage of it.
Yeah, the Pacers, they made the Eastern Conference Finals the last 2 years in a row.
It doesn't feel like it, right?
No, it doesn't. They don't seem like the team to do it, which is surprising. And the fact that they're in the finals now, going to the finals topic, I really think the Pacers are a better matchup for the Thunder. I think, people are saying Knicks Thunder, because they're both the remaining powerhouses of the East, but defensively, I like the Pacers. They're a smaller team, they're quick, they're scrappy. That's exactly what the Pacers are. The Pacers don't, other than Miles Turner, and maybe you can argue Pascal Siakam, don't really have a big. They have Thomas Bryant, cool. But what about the Thunder? The Thunder, who do they have other than Chet? Not much. So with the Knicks, they're a bit bigger. You have guys like Cat. You have guys like Mitchell Robinson. I'm trying to think of other taller guys. Mikal Bridges is a bit taller. OG Anunoby's a bit taller. But they're not as great of, I feel like, wing defenders than this Pacers team is. Now, they're good defending on the perimeter, but I think the Pacers are just a better guard to guard, I think it's better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think throughout the entire playoffs, the Pacers have shown that they are the best team in the East. I mean, they took care of business in the first couple rounds, especially that first round when the Knicks were really struggling against the Pistons. That the Pacers haven't really shown a lot of faults throughout this entire playoffs so far, these first three rounds now. I think they're definitely more of a well-rounded team. You can have a few different guys kind of go off and give you big scoring nights when you have, your leader being a guy who can go for 15 assists and 0 turnovers any given night. Like, that's a huge advantage. You take care of the ball. They move really quickly too, which I think can help them in this OKC series as well. You mentioned, the size being similar. I think the Pacers' fast pace could help, I think a lot of times pace is what evens the playing field a little bit because, again, I think, OKC, they're going to be huge favorites, and they should be. They deserve it. They won 68 games, and they've looked dominant in the playoffs. But when you run that fast, when you try and speed up the pace that much, pun not intended, for the Pacers, I think it does tend to even the playing field a little bit and give you a better shot. So I still think I have the OKC Thunder winning it, but I think it could be a lot closer than a potential Knicks series would have been.
Yeah, and I mean, God, you stole the pun right out of my mouth. I was going to say, speaking of pace, they're called the Pacers for a reason. No, yeah, I mean, the Pacers are just, their style of offense is transition. They love to get out running. They don't set up a lot, and if they do, it's a quick little give and go set. The Knicks, if they don't get a transition play, they slow it down, set up the half court set, get a play going. And like you said, that's coaching as well. That's Tom Thibodeau, now former head coach of the New York Knicks. That's his style of play. He's not a big transition guy. He loves to slow things down, set up a play, get the offense going. As for Rick Carlisle, he's a big transition guy. He has half court sets, but he would much rather, if the opportunity is there and he knows his team is quicker, abuse it. Go to the basket while you're in transition because you know the Knicks haven't set up yet. And I mean, maybe that style of play is what got Tom Thibodeau fired. I mean, this entire NBA season has been insane in terms of NBA head coach firings. I mean, you start off with Taylor Jenkins. You start off with Michael Malone, or you go with Michael Malone, and then now you have Tom Thibodeau. Oh, and Mike Brown earlier in the year. I forget about him.
Yeah, crazy.
It's just been crazy. I mean, the only one that you can maybe argue like it was sort of justified was Mike Brown, only because the Kings aren't that good. But the fact that it was so early into the season, I didn't like it. But I mean,
Yeah.
all these head coach firings just don't make any sense on paper.
I think now I saw something where every head coach of the year winner from 2018
Yep.
to 2023 has now been fired. So that's 10 coaches over the last, few years. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. But I mean, I think that's I think you almost back yourself into a corner a little bit. That's not necessarily what happened with Thibodeau, but I think when you win head coach of the year, that means you have a great year. And if there's any backsliding at all in future years, the leash is so much shorter. So it almost hurts these guys, but it's still a little bit ridiculous. It is, it's a business, it's sports. There's not a lot of patience from a lot of these teams, and that is really showing now more than ever. That said, I don't totally disagree with the Thibodeau firing, Angel. I have to be honest. I think my takeaway is that, Thibs is a floor raiser, right? He goes into places, that's what he's done his entire career, right? He goes into places, he elevates their floor, he makes them immediately competitive, playoff team, but he just can't really ever win at all. He just hasn't. And I think that's exactly what he did with the Knicks. He came in, he raised their floor significantly. Credit to him. They've been great these last, 4 out of the last 5 years they've made the playoffs. But I think they've reached their ceiling under a Tom Thibodeau-led team, and I think we saw some of those flaws, especially this series where it took them way too long to, what was it? It was game 5 that, because Brunson almost fouled out, they had to bring in some of the bench, and it looked way, way, way better because they used a 8-man rotation instead of a 6-man rotation or whatever it was they were doing, and they got some more defense, and they looked like a totally different team. It just took them way too long to adjust. Took Thibs way too long to adjust and do that, and that's kind of been the gripe against him his entire career, is that his rotations are too tight, he doesn't adjust quickly enough, and I think he's a great coach, but I think the Knicks have reached their ceiling with him. So, especially because the roster is kind of set for the most part. There's not a lot. They spent a lot of money. They've given up a lot of picks. There's not too much that they can, finagle with the roster they have going into next year. So when you're going to have probably a similar roster, I think you couldn't go into next year with the same roster and the same coach and think that this time you were good enough to make it to the finals as opposed to make it to the conference finals. I don't see why you would be able to have those expectations. So in my mind, it's why not kind of take a shot at a new coach, see if that raises your ceiling, see if, a new perspective changes anything. The worst is you are maybe a little worse, right? Worst case scenario, you take a little bit of a step back, but you still have a talented roster. Best case scenario is that you are a better team and you make it to the finals next year. Whereas I think best case scenario with Thibs is what we saw this year.
Yeah, and I want to credit or quote a line from a video game, Far Cry 3. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And I mean that you can say that's with Thibs. You're going in with the same squad, a la, you get Karl Anthony Towns this year. That's a bit different, but realistically, it's the same kind of core guys. It's the same head coaching staff, and you're doing it year after year after year, expecting something to give. This year, it looked like it gave a little bit, but they still
All
didn't make the
things fell
finals.
their way.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's. I mean, I kind of. We were talking about this off podcast last night with a group of KCSB sports members. Things got a little
Yeah.
heated, but we both left that. Um, but I was thinking, I'm like, where have I seen something like this before where you have a head coach in a position and you just get to the same spot every year and can't break past that ceiling? Jason Garrett and the Dallas Cowboys. That's the last time I think I can remember a team who had the same coach, the same coaching staff, the same roster, and you're going into it year after year after year after year, and you're just stuck in that same spot. And then
Hey,
finally
even Mike
something
McCarthy
gives.
for the Cowboys the last few years. It
No,
felt
yeah,
like a similar.
yeah. I mean, the Cowboys are now in a weird spot. They can't break past anything, even with changes. But no, I mean that Jason Garrett team felt like the same way. Okay, you get to the playoffs. What was it, Dak's rookie year? Um, and that was kind of you were just there. And then you go and get Mike McCarthy. You make the playoffs the 2 years, and you get bounced by the 49ers once in the wild card, once in the divisional. I mean, you're throwing the same stuff out there, thinking things are going to change, and there isn't. So I mean, going back to what you said, yeah, I think you kind of need to let go of Tibbs in order for something to give because you've reached the peak of the Tibbs era. I mean, maybe you could have given him one more year to see if he could have made that finals run now that the Celtics are going to be without Jason Tatum for who knows how long. They're going to be in cap trouble because they gave Jaylen Brown that super max, which I don't necessarily agree with. You've got all these guys who are going to get paid, like Derek White. You're going to want to pay Drew Holiday. Al Horford always wants to get a bag, even though he only averages 8 and 6 as a 6'10" big man. But I mean, the road to the finals is going to be a bit easier once you get out of that first round.
I think actually that's the exact reason why you do let go of
Okay.
Tibbs now. Because you don't really have to worry about the Celtics next year. And that's, this year you did get past them and it still wasn't enough. This team, the roster of this team kind of was built to beat the Celtics, right? They wanted to, their guys to match up perfectly with the Celtics guys. Emphasis on like those big wings to stop the Celtics big wings and the threes, and it worked and it was great. But now you're gonna kind of need to have a different look next year. You don't have to worry about the Celtics quite as much. You got to worry about other teams. You're gonna have to worry about the Pacers again, I'm sure. And I think knowing that the Celtics probably aren't going to be a threat next year is why you go all in next year. You try and, mix up coaching options. I don't exactly know what you can do with this roster, but I think you go as all in as you can possibly go, knowing that if there was ever a year, it's probably going to be next year because you still have this core of a roster on your team. Brunson's still at the peak of his powers. Cats look really sharp. A lot of guys on the team you can trust. But then you don't have to worry about some of these other teams in the Eastern Conference. So go all in for next year.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a look at some of the free agents going into this year so far. Um, Precious Achua, one of the guys on the Knicks roster this year, is going to be a free agent. Um, and you got a couple guys. Let's see. Actually, this is not telling me anything. This is just telling me who's on contract. Okay, never mind. Let's go to something else. Well, we know LeBron isn't going to be a free agent. He's opting into that $52.6 million player option, so the Knicks can't get him. Oh, and speaking of like the conversations that were had last night off podcast, someone who one of our colleagues, Carlo, he does photo video for KCSB. mentioned, the possibility of a was it Carlo? Could have been someone else. I could be wrong. Um, a LeBron one-off year. Like LeBron gets traded to the Knicks for Mikal Bridges straight up.
That'd be ridiculous.
I said no. I'm like, if you're gonna want LeBron for 1 year, I need more. I'm like, give me Josh Hart and a first. I feel like that is more than fair for a LeBron one-off. I mean,
Yeah. Who know? I mean, I don't know. I've been pretty surprised if LeBron is elsewhere. I don't know. I mean, it feels like what? He'll definitely be here this year, and he'll probably stay next year because that's when his next kid is eligible
yeah,
to.
that's what I'm hoping for. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is gonna be his last year.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't. I mean, yeah. I don't know. If I'm the Knicks, I don't. I don't. I've seen a lot of KD to the Knicks stuff too. I don't know if
He's
that
been
really.
rumored to go there since since
Yeah.
he left OKC.
Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna make a big move, it's gotta be for a defense first star. Like I feel like a Giannis would make more sense than a KD if you're gonna take a giant swing like that, which I don't even know if they should do. But I feel like if you're going to do that, you got to do that for someone who's more defensive than offensive, or both.
I have the free agents coming up this year. We got LeBron. He's on a player option. Fred Van Vliet is on a team option. Then we got Kyrie, James Harden, Chris Middleton, Julius Randle, and John Collins are all on player options. And the best available, arguably the best available non-player player option player is Brooke Lopez, Clint Capella. Um, let's see who else. Naz Reid is on a player option. You got a lot of younger, seasoned veterans. Miles Turner, Malcolm Brogdon, Bruce Brown. So there's a lot of it's a lot of guards, it looks like. Not a lot of bigs, but like you said, you need a defensive guy. And I think for if I'm the Knicks, I'm probably looking at a guy like I don't know, do you go with a big or do you go with a guard if you're the Knicks for defense?
I think honestly they could use it from anywhere, but I'd be okay with a guard. I mean, we saw it at flashes this postseason when you could bring in like a Landry Shamet from the bench, and he gave you defense first minutes. It was really helpful. So if you kind of upgrade there, and you get a guy off the bench, like a guard off the bench who can come in and be a really great defender, I'd be okay with that. Because you do have, Mitchell Robinson still as the big defense first kind of guy. So I'd be okay with a guard.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, maybe Bruce Brown or Malcolm Brogdon would work well for the Knicks. Maybe you get Tim Hardaway Jr. for like his third or fourth stint with the Knicks. As for bigs, maybe you could go out and get a guy like Brooke Lopez, who's good at both down low and on the perimeter. If you want to do like a traditional big man, you got Clint Capella. Want a more offensive minded big, you got Naz Reid. I mean,
There are
some
options. There are people out there.
there are good options. But it is gonna be kind of a top heavy free agency, but it is also a very old free agent class. Like I feel like the average age here is like 28, 29 years old. So it's getting pretty old. Um, so there's not a lot of young guys available. But I mean, and that's what the Knicks are. The Knicks are pretty young. So I don't know if you want to throw in the vets. I mean, we saw the Lakers do that a few years ago. They went from pretty young to really old. It didn't work out for them. Mind you, they had Darvin Ham as their head coach, who I didn't like. But we'll see what happens. And I mean, let's go back to the head coaching the head coach opening. I mean, I think the best plan of attack for the Knicks is Michael Malone. He's the best available. He is an upgrade from Tom Thibodeau, but there's Knicks fans who don't want Michael Malone. They want someone else. I don't know, maybe a guy like Mike Brown, maybe a guy like who Taylor Jenkins. And I mean, there's a lot of chirp that an assistant by the name of Johnny Bryant, who I had never heard of, is one of the favorites to be the head coach. I mean, do you trust this guy, Johnny Bryant? He's been on Thibs' staff. So is it not just going to be Thibs 2.0, or is he going to bring something different?
Here's my thinking. I think if you're going to do a guy who's never actually been a head coach in the NBA before, I would much rather take a shot on a fun college guy like a Jay Wright and just have the Villanova boys like come to full.
That would be cool.
Or a Dan Hurley, who I think if the only reason he would ever leave UConn is to go to the Knicks. I mean, he was that close to being the Lakers head coach this year.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely is as pro style of a college head coach as you can get. So I think I would much rather have those guys, either one, than a Johnny Bryant, if I'm going to go with someone who's never coached in the NBA before. The Michael Malone stuff is interesting because I'd be a little worried that it's kind of just a different, slightly better version of Thibs, and I don't know if that's enough to get you to that next step. Maybe, maybe not. But I think he would be an upgrade. I think it'd be a slight upgrade, but I think it would be an upgrade. I think that's more of the sure thing. I think you could write in, all right, we're going to get to the second round again, but then it's, all right, then what happens? I don't know if we have enough juice to get past that. I don't know if we can get there. I think with some of one of the more wild card type guys, it's just higher ceiling but lower floor, which I would be tempted because again, if you're going to keep the roster the same, I think you go kind of a more splashy head coach move, shake things up a little bit, and just see. So I would really like a Jay Wright or a Hurley. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
And I think Dan Hurley, I think, fits more of the New York atmosphere than Los Angeles. I mean, I would have loved Dan Hurley go to the Lakers, but obviously he wanted to try to three-peat. That didn't happen. Now he has, all the more to come to the NBA. The streak is over. But I mean, with these college guys, with these college coaches, it's a matter of, are they going to translate well into the NBA atmosphere, because it is a different game. I mean, you can go to, I get this is a different sport, but look at Urban Meyer. He retired from being the Ohio State coach, went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that was a mess.
Yeah, I think it's harder in the NFL. I think it's harder with those. I think there's more of a track record for that really, really not working out. When you get to the top of the top, the Urban Meyers or the Nick Sabans, who they really, it's just a different ballgame. I think it translates a little bit. I think it's still really difficult, and there'd be a ton of question marks. But I think it'd be worth kind of throwing a dart at the wall and taking it. I think it would be.
Yeah, and then you mentioned people who have, or just hiring people who don't have head coaching experience. I just saw the Phoenix Suns just hired Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott, I believe his name is. Never heard of this guy in my life, and now he's taking the helm of the Phoenix Suns. I mean, you got teams like that who they go out and fire Mike Budenholzer, who, let's be honest, is a shell of his former self. Not as good of a coach as he once was, but then you go from Mike Budenholzer, who has won a ring with the Bucks, did very well with the Hawks when he was there, to a guy who's never been a head coach in his life, unless it was for some 13U team in his hometown.
Yeah, I think with the Suns, it's more of they have no immediate future right now, so I feel like it was probably a very limited, hiring options for them. I don't think a veteran NBA head coach would have wanted to go there. I think that's kind of I don't know. I think it's a lot of red flags coming out of Phoenix these days. There's just with how awful the season went for them and how locked up in money they are, and now the roster is old and this and that, and they don't have any of their own draft picks. Um, I think that would be concerning for a potential NBA head coach or one of these guys who's been floating around the league for a while. So there, it's like, all right, we'll take a random shot and we'll let him be the fall guy in a year or two or whatever when it doesn't work out. But I do agree. Like, I think. I mean, you have to start somewhere, I guess, right? These NBA coaches, you have to become an NBA head coach at some point before you can start bouncing around the league. And this is where they start out on bad teams who are kind of a couple of years away.
Yeah. And I know we've been bouncing around a lot in this NBA section, but to close out, the finals start, I believe tomorrow is game one in OKC. I remember that because Stanley Cup finals start today. Go Edmonton. Rooting for the Oilers. But who do you got for the finals? Do you got OKC or do you got Indiana?
I got OKC. I got OKC. I just think that they're too talented. They're too deep of a team, and I mean, besides Nikola Jokic, being the best player in the league and carrying them to a game seven, the Thunder really haven't been in too much jeopardy at all. And I think I think they're just more talented. I think SGA, Williams, Chet, I think they're going to overpower this Pacers team. I could see them winning in five, but I think my official pick will be OKC in six.
All right, yeah, and I mean I can sit here and do the Shannon Sharp, SGA, PGA USA, Pacers in like seven. My heart is with the Pacers.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't.
rooting for the Pacers too. I love an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's just something about OKC that I don't like. I can't put my finger on it, but they are just the better. They're the team to beat. They are the best team in the league statistically, record-wise, and they also got a UC Santa Barbara guy on their team, so it'd be really cool to see AJ
That
Mitchell
is
win a ring in his rookie season. And also, either way, the Lakers win. One of our guys gets a second ring. Either Thomas Bryant on the Pacers or Alex Caruso gets his second with the Thunder. As much as I want the Pacers to win, I think realistically, I think it can be OKC in five or six.
Yeah. All right, we're on the same page. Look
Yeah.
at that.
All right, so we spent a lot of time on the NBA just bouncing around, but let's go now to the MLB. Let's talk about your Yankees. Played the Dodgers. How did everything go? How are you feeling?
We got absolutely shellacked in that game two against the Dodgers. 18-2 was a
Yeah.
disaster. And then in game one, kind of a rare, Max Fried, who's been the best pitcher in baseball, he just got dinged up by what is easily the best lineup in baseball, this Dodgers team. They have, the most home runs. They got the best. I mean, every single offensive stat that you can think of, the Dodgers offense is leading the way. And it still feels like they haven't even like all been hot at the same time yet. I mean, Mookie Betts wasn't even in the series this past weekend against the Yankees. He was a little dinged up, so they're clearly the team to beat this year. The defending champs, they're just ridiculously good. That said, I'm very happy that the Yanks were able to salvage that game three. They avoided the sweep. They beat Yamamoto, who's been great so far. So that felt necessary. But yeah, I think it was a bit of I don't know, maybe a little bit of a wake-up call because the Yankees had been red hot. They were like I think they were 15-4 in their last 19 heading into that Dodgers series. They had won 7 series in a row. And a lot of that was a lot of those series were against really good teams, playoff contenders. But the Dodgers are kind of a different beast. They are the best team in baseball. I think you have to say, even if they don't have the best record technically, they are so beyond talented. So they're the team to beat, and they will be until hopefully they get beat in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you say, the Dodgers are the team to beat, even though they might not be record-wise. And I was just taking a look at the standings. the best team in the league record-wise is actually the Detroit Tigers. They are the first team to get to 40 wins this season. They're 40-22, which is kind of crazy to think about, but then I mean they are in a not so competitive AL Central. And you know they're just going to get bounced in the wild card probably or the ALDS. But yeah, I think although the Mets and the Phillies are doing great, the Cubs are doing great. Um, Padres and Giants have took a bit of a slip. It's still the Dodgers and the Yankees to come out of both the NL and the AL. I mean, there's no one really else I can think of that could put up a fight against either team. Maybe the Mets or the Phillies for the Dodgers in the AL. There's not anyone I can think of.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Tigers, I think, could be the closest competition because that pitching staff is really, really exciting. I mean, Skubal has been unbelievable this year. Won the Cy Young last year. Obviously, he could very well repeat. He's been fabulous. And then, obviously, Casey Mize has been really good. Jack Flaherty's looking really, really good this year. Their 1-2-3 punch in a playoff series could end up being the best in baseball, depending on how everything shakes out. So I think they give you the best shot, but I'm not too worried as a Yankee fan. Again, the Yankees have absolutely destroyed AL Central teams in the playoffs over the last, I mean, decade, 2 decades. So they don't really scare me. And then it's just a really, really weak American League this year. The Yankees have a 6.5 game lead in that division. The Rays have looked like a very average team. The Blue Jays are the Blue Jays, where they've got a bunch of big names, but they're just not going to be very good. They're not going to be much further above 500. The Red Sox, who I thought would be pretty good this year, just with all the drama that they've had and, a couple just disappointing performances so far, they've been up and down. I don't think they're going to be a real threat. The Orioles going from a 100-win team to a 90-win team to now on pace for like a 70-win team is absolutely insane.
Yeah, fall from grace.
I mean, really, really crazy. And the American League West is just so mid now. Again, the Rangers were an interesting team coming into the year. They've been bad. The Astros are the Astros, but they've been very average. The Mariners have been hitting like crazy for the first time in forever, but they're still just an average team. So I think it's just a really weak AL this year. But then in the NL, I do agree with you. I think the Phillies, for me, pose the best chance at taking down the Dodgers. Again, kind of like I mentioned with the Tigers, their starting rotation. I mean, when you start off with Nola, Wheeler, they got Ranger Suarez still. I mean, their 1-2-3 is going to be able to match up, if not be better than the Dodgers 1-2-3, and that matters so much more come playoff time. So I think they're the team with the best shot to take them down.
Yeah, and I mean you mentioned the drama going on with the Red Sox. I just saw before their game today, which is ongoing against the Angels. Angels currently up 8-7, going into the top of the sixth. Go Halos. Um, One of their coaches or their manager, Coda, I think was just going and just chirping at the first and the third base coaches, the hitting coach of the Angels. He was chirping with Tyler Anderson before game time. Like,
Yeah,
what are we doing?
it's exchanged. Yeah. You don't see that. I mean, I don't know. It feels like the Red Sox are just a total mess this year. I
Well,
mean,
they are.
between all of the, I mean, and the Rafi Devers drama is so absolutely insane. I know we talked about that before, but yeah, it feels like they're just a little cursed this year. And now, well, I saw something that since they won the World Series in 2018, this is about a week old stat, but they were exactly 500. They were like 461 and 461 since they won it in 2018, and that's just like what they've been. They're an incredibly
It's average.
and they cannot. I thought this was the year that they were going to be able to get over the hump, but it doesn't look like it.
Yeah. I mean, the MLB is in such a weird space because you have the powerhouses in the Yankees, the Dodgers, and then if you want to throw in maybe the Mets and the Phillies because they're still pretty good. The contenders, you can say the Cubs and the Tigers right now, and then it's everyone else.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and I
very
think
top heavy.
you mentioned those list of contenders, and 4 out of the 6 are National League, and that's
Yeah.
not to mention. I think the other one would probably be the Braves, who have been bad this year, but they're normally a contender. They're NL. The other one, next closest, it would be the Padres, another NL team.
NL, yeah.
I think there's a very realistic case to make where 6 out of your 8 top teams in the league are in the NL, which is so strange, so totally strange.
No, yeah. And you mentioned the AL West earlier. I mean, they are. I gotta argue that it's probably one of the worst divisions in the league this year. I mean, it's just very average. I don't know. At least in the AL Central, who I know a lot of people would say is the worst. I mean, at least you got the Tigers, who have 40 wins, and then you have the Twins, the Guardians, the Royals, all kind of fighting to get over the hump. The AL West, the Astros are at 33 wins, and then everyone else is just mid. The Angels are 5 games behind. Cool, they play the Mariners soon, so they can kind of get into the race for AL West. But I mean, there's no telling what's gonna happen. At least the AL Central is a bit more definitive. You kind of know the Tigers are gonna win it. You kind of know what the outcome is. The AL West, I don't know. It's not fun. It's just I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of weird to see because it used to like the Astros used to be the team to beat. They were kind of as this hurts to say as an Angels fan, they were fun to watch.
Yeah.
They were electric. The Mariners were, although an average team, another fun team to watch. Rangers won the World Series in 2022. They were fun to watch. Angels and A's push them off to the side. Now it's just like, woo, the Astros. I don't know. There's just no fire anymore in the AL West.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the Mariners have been, Cal Raleigh's been awesome for them. Got to shout out him. Leads the league as a catcher in home runs. But besides that, yeah, I feel like Julio Rodriguez has just not quite lived up to the hype yet. I mean, he had that awesome rookie year. He was supposed to be the next face of Major League Baseball, possibly. And he's just kind of leveled out since then. I think that's honestly a big reason why the Mariners aren't like a powerhouse right now, or at least clear favorites to win the the AL West. Like I feel like if Julio Rodriguez kind of was the guy everyone thought he was going to be a couple years ago, this would be a very different Mariners team, especially with the pitching that they already do have. But yeah, it's interesting. Again, like part of it though means that it's kind of wide open. Like right now, if the playoffs started today, the Guardians and the Mariners would be in the playoffs at 32 and 27. So nothing to write home about, but they'd both be in. The Rays, Blue Jays, Royals would be a half a game behind, and the Rangers and Angels would still technically, they're still kind of in it. They're still kind of in the hunt still.
Yeah.
Angels, maybe they sweep the Red Sox today, and all of a sudden they got a little momentum going. I don't know, but that's the positive is there's going to be a race for those last couple wild card spots, but I just don't think anyone who ends up squeaking into the playoffs in those last couple wild card spots are really going to be a threat to get to the series.
Yeah, and let's go back to the NL. We mentioned in the last episode, which was now, 2 weeks ago, by the time this episode airs, Juan Soto they were saying he wasn't enthusiastic, but then he goes out and has a pretty good series against the Dodgers. It seems like he's finally kind of coming into his own, or maybe this could just be a one-off. He knows it's national TV, Mets Dodgers, projected to be the NLCS matchup. Could possibly be an NLDS matchup. There would have to be some crazy thing to happen for that, but it's probably going to be them in the NLCS. I mean, is it like he's picking and choosing when he wants to be good, or is Juan Soto finally enjoying baseball?
I mean, yeah, him hitting a home run last night is big. He had a double the night before. I think he's slowly starting to warm up, but I mean, you look at his numbers on the year. He's batting 233, 361 401 OBP, 438 slugging. So that on base percentage is still definitely above average, but batting average and slugging are way, way, way down for him. It's a 799 OPS. I mean, Juan Soto having an OPS that starts with a 7 is something that he's quite frankly never done before. I mean, he's he's a significantly better player than that. So it's kind of crazy right now. But I do think, we saw this like with Freddie Freeman when he went to the Dodgers. This guy was a lifelong Brave, and he didn't think he was going to go to the Dodgers. He ends up being in the Dodgers. There's some drama there, and then he had a bad couple first months, and then he was himself again, and now he's one of the best players in baseball, and he has been. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens with Juan Soto. He just needs some time to adjust to a totally different environment, even though it's still New York. Now he's on Little Brother, so totally different. But I do think he'll get back to being Juan Soto. He has to be. He's just too good. But as a Yankee fan, I am going to enjoy him hitting only 233 right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, he's with Little Brother now. He's in a different borough. He went to Queens. Yeah, I mean, it's an Anthony Rendon situation without the injuries. Like, I feel like if Anthony Rendon wasn't injured, it would be the exact same thing going on right now. Like, it would be a Juan Soto situation. But obviously,
I
he's
hope
hurt.
for the Mets' sake, even though it would be fun for me, I hope for the Mets' sake that doesn't happen, because that would be Anthony Rendon square. That'd be crazy. It just with the money involved in the years. And again, Soto's still on pace for a little less than a 4 WAR season. That's still really, really, really good. And I'm sure he'll probably get to that 4 WAR. Again, for how much money he's being paid, he kind of needs to do 6 or 7 a year for it to be worth it. That's a different equation there. But 4 WAR, he could still be a really, really productive player, and he's still, getting on base at a respectable clip. But I'd be a little worried if I was a Mets fan. I wouldn't be sounding the alarm or anything. Again, I think I'll be fine, but I'd be, I'd turn it up to one further DEFCON. I don't know if that'd be DEFCON 4, right? Is 1 the worst, or is 5 the worst?
DEFCON, it might be 5?
If 5's the worst, then I'd move it up to 2. If 1's the worst, I'd move it up to 4. That's my final statement on the matter.
Let's look it up. No, it's DEFCON 1 is the highest.
Okay, so yeah, I'd drop it down from 5 to 4. I get a little worried, but I, just like kind of get ready to sound the alarms, but don't yet.
And I mean, what, he still has after this 14 more years, right?
Okay.
So I mean, okay, it's 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's 20, 26, 20 foot. There's the bio. He is 20. Where is this? 26. Yeah, about to turn 27 in a couple months. Yeah, just 20.
That's crazy. Like I forget he's still so young.
It's crazy. I mean,
you would think he's like in his 30s.
I mean, well, he's played. This is his 8th year already. He debuted in 2018 when he was 19 years old. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, and then went to the World Series.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that a player of that caliber, who debuted that young, who was so good for so long, this is already his 4th team, is also really weird. The fact that he's been on 4 teams makes it seem like he's been in the league even longer, and that he's even older.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's also, it could be, he's money hungry. You go and win the World Series, the Nationals want to give you a contract, you say no, get traded to the Padres. You stay there for a little bit, get traded to the Yankees, you sign the big deal with the Mets. I mean, there's no telling. Maybe in a couple years, we see him ask for another trade. I don't know. Maybe he wants to go out west again. Maybe he wants to go, I don't know, the Tigers. We'll see what happens with Juan Soto. He's an anomaly.
It's pretty clear to me that he's just going to go where the money is. I mean, he's made that abundantly clear. So that's his priority. I think that's what we know.
The day Juan Soto becomes a Los Angeles Dodger is the day I stop watching baseball. But until that day happens, we will continue to watch Juan Soto and the Mets and his unenthusiastic self. But I think that's going to be it for the podcast today. A little bit shorter of an episode, but still pretty decently long, like
That's all right,
54
50 minutes.
minutes.
That's perfect. I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice little episode. Not much to talk about, obviously, but we still stretched it out, which is, what you do on a podcast. Even if you only have a couple major things to talk about, you stretch them out. But yeah, Jake, thank you once again for
Well,
joining me. Episode 14 now in the books. It will be uploaded Friday at 2 p.m. when you watch this, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Whether you are on YouTube, watching in a video format, Spotify, or Apple for audio, we appreciate you all the same. Like I said at the start, might not have an episode next week just because of finals, so schedules are going to be all over the place, but we'll play it by ear. If you don't hear from us next week, you'll probably see us the week after. We're obviously going to have to talk about summer scheduling.
oh yeah.
So we'll figure that stuff out as we go. But for Jake, I'm Angel. Thank you so much for listening to Beyond the Sideline. Hope you all have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're listening to this podcast.